you all ready? Right, we're going live now. I'd welcome you to today's council meeting. Welcome those that are screening in on this meeting. Call for apologies. I only have one apology, and that's from myself. At about 2:30, I will be handing over the chairmanship to the Deputy Mayor. Will be attending an awards night tonight in Rotorua for the Playground of the Year. And so I'm sure that you all wish Lucy and Brenna well.
Yes.
We'll let you know what the outcome is, but I think it's important that council is representative to support them. In terms of public forum, we have several people today. I have John Keeve will be first up around the sports complex and Domain and Bulls. I understand that Ken Bellamy was listed and has withdrawn. I've got Josephine Ratana Playground, and I have Raywin Turner's Raywin here. So if she doesn't turn up, we'll take that as a withdrawal. So John, please welcome. As I've explained to you out the front, please come and join us at the front. You have, under the rules of public forum, you have 10 minutes. How you wish to use that time is yours, but it includes question time. If you want the opportunity for councillors to ask questions, they can question you. You can't, unfortunately, question them. It's a one-way street here. The time's yours.
Okay, thank you. I represent a users group of people in the Bulls Domain. Obviously, up front there, I don't know how many of you people have actually been to the Bulls Domain, but that's the front gate. That's the only way in. So, next. That is a ground view of the domain, and as you can see from the club rooms are there, the main gate's down there, and that's the changing rooms. We have the small ball there, and we have the dog people there. They're basically the main users. Through here, there is all walking tracks. That is the number 2 field, that is the number 1 field, and there's a football field here that we would like to resurrect again, because we're getting quite a bit of inquiry from the football club. Now, one of the so that's it, and also there's some land across the other side that is actually part of the domain. Yeah. So obviously these are the changing rooms, toilets and public toilets that we've got there. As you can see, there needs to be a bit of work done there. The issue with compliance, I know they got offered to the rugby club quite a few years ago, and obviously we turned them down because yeah, once you start doing work in there, it wouldn't meet a lot of the requirements. We don't have any paraplegic facilities there. There's nothing for mums and babies, and obviously you move into with a commercial building, ventilation, there's no fire, not even a smoke alarm in place. So the consideration is, what are we going to do with that over the next 5 to 10 years? The expectation of people that use the domain is seems to be a lot higher than this. This we put a submission was put in. I have a report that you guys did 10 years ago, and now the expectation is a lot greater. It's going to be even greater in another 10 years of what people like. And I know that the first indication is when you get mums and girls coming and wanting to use the toilets in the club rooms. What I'm saying is that's a major capital expense, and I'll move on to where I think the best idea of that would go. Move on to the next photo. Now this is just a picture. I think I was here 18 months ago and spoke to some of you people about the lighting. The Bulls Rugby Club changed to LED, and we did an electronic scoreboard. And just that alone has brought in a lot more people, because we've now got 4 senior netball teams, and we've actually taken over all the school winter sports. So the idea was to get more people here, because we know that funding, there's a lot of funding for youth sport. So we've convinced the 2 schools to play under the banner of Bulls instead of playing for Clifton or Bulls School. And we're going to look at trying to bring them in the summer sports as well. So I thank you for that. And it was a great project. We had help from Haki Air Force Base, and I think it was about a $23,500 project. And we did that under your Parks and Reserve grant, and I really appreciate that, because it leaves us more money to spend on other things. So these are some of the results that you get from when you manage to get the people here. You can see there that the netball courts are fully used now, and that's a great thing. I think they hadn't been used for 10 years. Obviously, some of the senior games will be still played in fielding, because that's how they operate the system, and that's club day there. And you can see over there, one of the biggest things is that you've got a generation of people there. You've got the young ones, the old ones, and they feel part of this club. So that's great. I think that was one more for it, and obviously that's the club rooms. I'd just like to speak about a couple of things, and one of them is centralisation of services. I think Te Meta Pihi was a good example in Bulls of how we can retain services. A little town like Bulls, you're going to lose those services unless you can look further ahead and think of how you can do them. And the model for centralisation is well-proven model, and I think it retains things in the town. Just touching on it, it has obviously polarised a few people in that aspect, but I've been 100% before it. I don't think we're pushed enough for how to keep services and the benefits of that. People get polarised on whether they wanted it or not. I'm not a big user of a hall. I might be there 3 times a year or something like that, but I still 100% support that investment for our community. And I'd like to sort of carry that on with what can we do down in the Bulls domain there. We would look and be keen to move towards a multi-type sports stadium. We're not a gym, or old people call it gyms, other people call it indoor courts, but basically, if you're going to spend money down there, you want to be able to bring in new codes. If you put a new set of changing rooms there and toilets, you're not going to bring any more people up. The idea is new money brings in new codes and more people. And I think that's one of the aspects. I'm saying the group that we've formed, we are going to try and approach, obviously, all the funders. We've already started a substantial building program of our own. We're lucky that we're well resourced, and obviously we hold one of the biggest assets down there apart from the land. So we want to build on that. The club is 5 years' time is coming up to 150 years old. I think we're the 3rd or 4th oldest club in New Zealand as far as being standalone. And we are looking for a project to actually push this forward. We've already started with maybe starting off with a pre-season Hurricanes game or something like that to really kick off the Bulls area. But we have been remiss, I would say, in some of the things. As you know, we're a rugby football sports club, and we haven't really supported other sports. So it's one of our agendas in the next 5 years to do that. We're supplying all the skirts and stuff for the netball girls, seniors, and junior netball stuff. So, we're putting our money where our mouth is. I would like to bring your attention to the last 10-year plan that was submitted for the Bulls, and this was a result of it. It's a report that was done by council here. I presume it was done on 2011, and then finally they came out with a Bulls Domain report. And if you look at some of the language here, it talks about the same thing we're talking about here. We talked about some of the actions to implement capital renewal progressively implemented as budgets permit. And then it got a development of a fitness centre. That was one of the things that you'll see in my submission that is getting very popular with a lot of activities. It's basically around the main ground. You've got different activities in these seats and people go around and do them all. The other thing too is to encourage development of a multi-sports club to manage all clubs and facilities at the domain. This was done 10 years ago. We haven't moved on any of this, people. You know, we're, as much to blame as people around this table. It's very easy to say that sports, leisure activities are low on the list. I know that you guys have got water, sewage, we're a growing population, but as we grow, we have to grow the facilities too. We can't afford to keep all the parks, so we're really, at the end of the day, we have to actually decide where we're going to put our money is and what we're going to do. So I'd like to just finish with, I've spoken to a few of the funding agencies and we've spoken to a few of the big businesses in town, and they're quite happy or really enthusiastic about supporting something like this. We all know the value that you can get through sports or through group activities, the leadership, the commitment, and all the rest of themselves and each other. I look at you guys as being a team, and you've got your captain up here, and you might all disagree with some of the things, but that's why we need so many of you here, because if you all agreed on everything all of the time, we could do with only half of you. But you all have some sort of skill that you bring to this this table. So, okay, thank you.
Because we're just over time, first of all, a note for councillors that there is a submission backing up the request of this. I think it's submission 214 in the long-term plan process. So, John, we will address that as part of that process. Is there any one burning issue that a councillor wishes to raise as a question? I'll only allow one question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just for a bit of clarification, and thanks, John. I've certainly been in your club rooms and had a couple of beers, but I can't remember the layout. So the toilets that you were showing us, which is the block over there, so you have no shower facilities in the club rooms?
No.
So you're currently using the public facilities?
That's right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
In terms of the next one, we've got Josephine, if you'd like, the two of you would like to come up. The same rules apply to you. You have 10 minutes, and how you use that time is yours. And I gather we're going to hear more about a playground dear to our heart.
Go home.
Maybe started the time yet, so so take this. That's all right, no stress. Do you want us just to pass those around as you can?
Yes.
Yep.
I know the facilities.
Yeah.
Matua tama wairo tapu minga ambil kuti mama could Josephine Rena te tapu ingoa?
Coronea ho.
So first of all, I'd just like to thank Mayor Andy and councillors and others here today for allowing us to kōrero on our kupapa. Just to bring us up to date, the project, the playground was built in 1998. When it was open, it was a source of pride, not just to the Ratana residents, the community, but the wider Morihu, the wider community, Ngā Morihu. We started this in 2018. I think that was when the last time I was here presenting our kaupapa on the playground. And I'm back here today, just enforcing it, passionate about the whole kaupapa. Just wanted to get it over the line. The playground was dated. Equipment had been taken away due to not complying with new regulations, or just old, broken and not replaced. In 2020, a barbed wire fence was removed due to safety issues. We do have a half a basketball court out there, which gets used quite a lot from the rangatahi and the youth. It's old, it's small, upgrade. We're still working alongside with the playground centre in Whanganui, who have been very helpful and a lot of patience. Marton is growing and expanding a new subdivision with over 60 houses and more planned. Our community really needs this playground and whānau space. This project has been in the making for a few years now. However, has gained momentum in 2020 with a committee formed, a steering committee, which have been leading the project as well. Very passionate. We have the funding, a fundraising committee. We also have the Ratana support, also the support from Ōrākei Nui Trust Incorporated as our umbrella for our organisation, which has been awesome. But really, it's just a whole community involvement, which is helping us get this over the line for our kids, for our tamariki, for all our nannies and queers that want that whānau space to be done out the park. And our goal is to have a grand opening at the end of the year, 2021. We did a survey in 2020 with positive outcome. Our positive outcome, hosted public engagement by working alongside RDC. Our long-term plan engagement with Ratana. We have engaged with locals as well as people that have strong whānau connection to the community. At the moment, we have secured $153,000. So we're just a little shy of 300,000. So I will pass it over to Renee, who will carry on.
Okay, kia ora koutou katoa, ko Renee aho, no Wanganui awa. On behalf of the Ratana Park Playground and Whānau Space Committee, I will be sharing various highlights in fundraising events and projects that we have been doing. So I will just start around about April 2020 until now. The fundraising committee implemented a following marketing strategy, which was the Facebook page, along with the Give a Little link. Now, the reason for this was just to reach out to any of the community out there and the wider audience and bring awareness to the playground. Soon after, though, the committee was able to invite and to partake in the RDC Framing the Future long-term hui process, where we were able to present the playground in the current state to the RDC and our own community. Now, we looked at the future contingency plan at Ratana Park, and we were able to capture the community's thoughts and feelings about the whānau space, which was the park. So we got really creative and we started with the children, and we just wanted them to have a look at designing their own park, like a colouring competition. So that was one part of it. The second part was just to have discussions with the adults and parents and anyone in the community, and just start with a survey. Now, so it was just a long-term survey, what they wanted as part of the community. So with the survey, I just wanted to touch base with one of the aspects of the survey, and one of it was to increase the financial funding from 50,000 to 150,000 or near of it. And then in addition to the whole process, we were able to establish a working beat in partnership with the RDC, and that was formed as well. So I felt like that was a really positive aspect. Don't you agree, Josephine?
Definitely.
We started to move forward with the numerous fundraising events in collaboration in the rural community. So we started with barbecue, sizzlers and bake sales, which indicated the community involvement steadily progressed various, especially with the volunteers to offer various skills and services. With the increased support from the local kaumātua that weren't on social media, it was decided that we'd produce a seasonal newsletter in late December last year. And moving forward with that, our latest one will be a Matariki edition in June. With our ongoing social media marketing strategy and our kānohi te kānohi approach out the rātaka, the playground and whānau space committee would like just to thank a few people and sponsors that supported us during this time last year onwards. The Nomai Storm, Whare Marama Kohanga, Te Kura o Rātana, New World Marton, Pekansai Wanganui, Turekina Primary School, Upping My Creations, Positively Rātana Hub, and Rātana Power Rugby Team, Rātana Basketball Team, the Rangatike College, and lastly, the RDC. Now, I'd just like to hand it back to Josephine, where she will be able to answer all your questions, queries, worries, and woes. Kia ora.
Good segue.
I like the tactics. Questions from councillors. So just before you do that, councillors, I just remind you that there is a LTP submission. I think it's submission 134. I'll go for councillor Hira and I'll then come to you next. Councillor Hira.
Kia ora and thank you for your presentation. I've got your submission sitting in front of me at the moment. You're asking the council, and here I was just trying to make sure it blends in together with what I'm hearing with what you're saying, but what your request is. So your request is you're asking for the ongoing maintenance. Is that correct of the site of the playground itself? Thank you. And then the only other question is, has anything been started yet?
The park, the project, not yet. We are still waiting to get all our funding, all our money. We've gone through providers, so nothing has been started civil-wise.
Councillor O'Connor.
Kia ora, ladies. Could you tell me what, do you have a figure on how many people would use the park? Let's say, I don't know, over a 6-month period, 12-month period, have you guys figured that out? Thousands.
Easy. We have 3 main events throughout the year. We have our Rātana celebration, which brings in thousands of people in 3 days. Then we have our Easter celebrations as well. There's hundreds there. We have our 8th of November. So not just the 3 events, actually, I'm talking day to day as well. We can, 1 minute there could be no buses and, you know, there's a bus, there's 3 buses. And it could be just ongoing, consistently ongoing with people coming up to the park. But yeah, it's never a dull moment. We'll have somewhere for our, you know, our visitors, family, kids to enjoy.
A question from me, sorry. A question from me. You've been offered 50,000 as part of the Parks Upgrade Fund for our council.
Yes, thank you.
Further questions from council? No, well, look, ladies, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that a number of councillors have been involved in the process. So you'll hear back from us because of the LTP submission. And you'll get a full answer back in due course.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So that leaves us with a public forum from Rowan Turner. Rowan. background. I'm not sure you were in the room when I talked about the rules around this, but you should be aware 10 minutes including questions. How you use that time's up to you.
Okay.
And I also note that you've got a submission in the long-term plan, submission 156.
I just basically
But
tick
it was a
boxes.
placeholder, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that time is yours.
Thank you. Right, so greetings, tēnā koutou katoa, talofa, worship premier, councillors, members of the public. I've had the pleasure of living in Bulls for nearly half my lifetime. So I'm nearly a local. I'm not happy, which is pretty unusual for me, and Carol will probably could expand on that later. I'm not bashful. I'm prepared to say my piece and share information. I'm not a doctor, although I do have qualifications. I have a degree and other qualifications. I'm not sleepy, but I do enjoy my sleep. And I'm not sneezing because I'm reasonably healthy. I'm certainly not dopey, but I am just a little bit grumpy, okay, because of the previous mission and what happened around there. I'm passionate about bulls and the wider Rangitake. I have the privilege of teaching students from Ratana, Hunterville down to Sanson. So I'm interacting with staff, principals within that. I also network in a number of community groups, Bulls Bowling Club, the Bulls Friendship Club, Rangitake Country Quilters, I'm past president, different sewing groups, run different night classes and day classes for different groups, swim groups, music club, local churches, quite a few. I've done a course through Te Wangana and I'm at present at Ngāti Apa learning Samoan. So I'm good at networking and I love to learn. I was elected onto the Bulls Community Committee after attending meetings for nearly a year, as this was when the start of the development of Te Matapihi was happening. Te Matapihi, I'd like to acknowledge Andy for his understanding of what we've learned, but I do believe that there's three important learnings that we've kind of got on the back foot. That's number one is listen to the main stakeholders, the people, the locals, and keep them in the loop. We've had quite a few changes on plans and things. The community didn't know. Make sure the build is fit for purpose. And number three, future-proof. Look to the future. I know you've got to anticipate it, but this is your one chance to get it right. These three learnings need to be front and centre when you're considering the Marton Civic Centre development. We will only get one chance at it. We'll get one chance to get it right and ensuring that we'll meet community needs for future generations. So I believe that we need to have ongoing conversations and anticipate future needs. We need to include our youth. They're our future. Utilise their ideas. Utilise the expertise within the community. We have many people that, given the criteria, could come up with some awesome design ideas. Our pupils at Rangitake had the privilege of going to Denmark a couple of years ago, so they've got a bit of a world view that they've seen firsthand. And I suggested perhaps run a campaign to design it. You give the criteria that you need, run a campaign and say there's going to be 5 prizes of $200. Yeah, that's much more effective than an architect at $200 an hour. You're paying for one day for an architect for one person's view, but you get the community view. What a good way of going about it. Consultation and information. I really think we could improve this. How? At present, at a recent meeting of selected elderly at Te Matapihi, they stated that their preferred way to get information was through the Bulls Bulletin. I know Marton and Hunterville have newsletters. These could be utilised better, not with long-winded jargon, but perhaps just bullet points of what's happening. A link to where they could get more information, or a link to who they could talk to gain that information. Younger people, social media. Most of our towns have, you're from Bulls, you're from Marton, you're from Hunterville. These have lots of followers, and there's an expedient way to get information out. I post some of these to encourage people to have their submission for the long-term plan. The comments were strongly in support of drinkable water. With all the builds going on in our district and the water quality that has not improved in the 30 years that I've been living here, I would like you to consider it a requirement that new builds have water tanks. These cost between $17.70 for a pixie, which might do your garden, up to about $4,000 for a 3,000 litre tank. We should be encouraging all residents to look at installing either just grey water tanks or both water and grey water tanks, because it's going to be a while until our water is sorted out. In my view, it would be a requirement for all new builds, as this will help ease the pressure on our existing water system. I was voted onto the Bulls Community Committee and networked widely within the community. In reference to the green space, members were asked who'd like to be on a subcommittee. This is just giving you an example. Tyrone and Councillor Jane Dunn were keen. I was keen, but I had too many commitments. I asked Tyrone on many occasions what progress had been made, as I wanted to see the proposed suggestions and perhaps put some ideas forward. I thought it was normal for a subcommittee to come back and report to the committee with their views, but this doesn't seem to be happening. I hope they are considering that when the joint partners build on the corner of Criterion and Bridge Streets, that the green space will probably only get 2 to 4 hours of sunlight a day because of Tamata Pihi and the new build. And this is going to have a big impact on the green space. We really need signage at the building. I spoke to, in passing, going to physio, and they said, oh, we get so many people come in and ask where the toilets are. Because the sign for the information centre on the building fits between my hand, my fingers. That's how big it is on the building. People drive past. Rates. Sorry, I've got a few things. House and land prices have gone up, and this will affect the rateable values. Unfortunately, house prices are here, disposable values are here. They're not going up, and in some cases will be static for the next 3 years due to government announcements. On a $3,000 per year rates payment, in 5 years it would have gone up 30%, in 10 years 60%, taking into account the yearly increases. In the long-term document, it equals 53.45% and does not take into account the 3-year valuations that we get. So that's probably going to be even higher. Please reconsider this increase that you've got proposed in your plans. I know there's a lot of infrastructure things that we have to do, but this will put a lot of ratepayers under duress. Please make wise choices within your fiscal management and look at the greatest need within our district, which to me is drinkable water. I have the impression that I'm seen as a bit of a stirrer. I did feel that perhaps I should go to woodwork room and make myself a big wooden spoon so that when I come to meetings, thank you. But in reality, I care. I care about our people. I care about our environment. I care about bulls, and I care about the rangatiko. I actively support people in my community and community events. My heart is in this place. Ke tēnei wahi tōku nāko. This is my home. Ko tōku kainga tēnei. I would like to thank you for listening to my oral submission. Whawhatai, manuia liaso. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. Any questions from councillors? We've got time for about one question, unfortunately. No,
Thank
I
you very
would.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that deals with item 3, the public forum. I remind councillors around the conflict of interest declarations. The confirmation of the order of business. Staff, do you see any changes to that? No, thank you. Well, while they're discussing that, we'll go into the confirmation of minutes. We have an extensive list of minutes to be confirmed. So I'm looking for alterations, corrections, and I think the minutes start on page 2 with the ordinary council meeting, but I'll go right through to page 52. So I won't split them up into individual meetings unless requested. So pages 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. Just like clarification from myself, excuse me, in terms of page 10, minutes and recommendations to committees, recommendation from the Bulls Community Committee, it was noted in the minutes from the Bulls Community Committee made several references to the mayor carrying out actions which should be assigned to staff. Having been at that meeting, I'm not sure, don't think that was a criticism of something that I did do. I think it was a perhaps
You want me to clarify?
Ms. Gordon,
Yes.
if you'd like to explain.
So we received the Bulls Community Committee minutes from the 10th of March, and as His Worship attended, all the undertakings were assigned to him to personally do, which obviously isn't the intention. So all that was trying to say was while they were assigned to His Worship, they will actually be undertaken by the appropriate staff member or person. So it was just making sure that we didn't put a huge list on the mayor to deal with.
Thank you for the explanation. Item pages 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We're into the council meeting of the 12th, 13th of May. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
there's a spelling correction, just to, I'll catch up. Sorry. Bottom of the page, can the blowing club still use this bulk building?
Council staff, have you got that?
Yes.
Maybe, mate.
Yeah.
38.
So we're working off the electronic page,
Yeah,
which is different to the page you're working off.
it's just quicker for me to flick through.
Yeah.
What page number?
So if page 38, in the bottom.
It's a one interpreter.
It's a one I thought it was a rowing.
Sorry, maybe it would have been easier for me to flick through with the electronic version, but it's quicker for me to turn pages.
Oh,
He's got different pages.
I see, sorry.
I'll deal with this. Perhaps the easiest way to deal with this, does anybody have any alterations, corrections in terms of submission hearings? Yeah. Forty, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. Any further alterations or corrections? Right, would somebody like to so move? Councillor Nelson, Councillor Duncan, those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 7, the follow-up action items from the previous meetings. This is 7.1. And who's going to take us through that, Mrs. Gordon?
I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I think they're assigned to a number of staff and they're happy to answer or provide any clarification.
Questions? Councillor Belsham?
I've just got a question. There's a couple of items in there that relate to the signage of the Marton Memorial Hall in regards with the RSA. And just wondering where that's at. So one of the questions was, has the old signage been taken down and stored somewhere? And there's a comment there that they took it down for refurbishment of the hall, but obviously that's the end of the comment. And then there's another one stating there's no agreed signage designed yet.
Yeah, that's great. If I can, through you, Mr. Chairman. We went and had a look around to be sure that there was no old signage. Apparently that came off years and years and years ago, and we couldn't find anything. So we would have to redesign a new one. I think there is agreement on the design, but the position is the new thing we've got to agree on. So if it's going to go up on the hall where the old one was, that comes with a whole lot of complication and cost because of potential asbestos and a couple of other things, compared to an alternative position. So once we've agreed on the position, then we'll go.
Yeah, will there be cost implications? That's, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is it within the current budget of that hall refurbishment, or is it
It'll be an extra
cost? So is that likely to come back to council?
Yeah, so we are kind of negotiating where it could possibly go, and once that's agreed, it'll come back to council.
Thank you.
Any further questions with regard to the report? Would somebody like to move that the report be received? Thank you, councillor Panapa. Councillor Dalgety, those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 8. This is the Mayor's report. I'm going to certainly take it as read. I'll take any questions along with the appointments that I've been through. Any questions? Councillor Hill.
What is the situation if we can't get the Marton or the Bulls community committees up and running?
Okay, first of all, they are community committees. They're at a lower level, if you like, to a community board. If it had been a community board, we would have to go through quite a rigorous process around re-advertising and elections. And if they weren't filled then, we'd go back through the same process again and again, or apply to say that they were being no longer required. It's not the same onus on a community committee. However, my personal view I've expressed in reports is they should be in place. And so my intention is, first of all, to highlight it today. I have talked to one of our local newspapers. I think that I will probably go out for a public meeting in both Bulls and Marton, looking for expressions of interest.
It's just really my thoughts. I was just, council has changed the level of support of these committees. And I just wondered, with them struggling to operate currently, whether that possibly is the time and do that. We should be offering more support, in my view.
I personally don't think that's the limiting factor. It could be a minor contributing factor, but I don't think so. With all community committees, they wax and wane in terms of their interest. Often, and I'm speaking in generalities here, often there's personality issues and all sorts of other things that come into the mix. I think there are a number of people, for instance, that were weary of being landed with engagement processes as chair and those sorts of considerations. I think if we have a public meeting around discussion, it might be useful. You wish to make a comment?
Yes,
I'll allow that.
thank you. Your worship, you may wish to consider this as part of the representation review we're going to do anyway, which helps us inform the view and the need for such a committee.
Certainly, we will be going through that process.
So therefore, we'll put within the representation review the opportunity to have community committees at both Marton and Bulls, and we get the outcome from that, which would advise that to members.
Councillor O'Connor.
Is there, do you need us?
Representation review or the
Yeah,
public meeting?
representation review.
We've got quite a process to go through. So in terms of representation review, it has been triggered by obviously the establishment of Maori wards. So there'll be some workshops around councillors around what our preferred view is, and then it will go up for a consultation process.
Thanks. Thank you.
Short answer will be the next couple of months. Sorry, I should have passed here.
Forgive me for clocking up the meeting, your worship, but the next meeting for these is on the 9th of June, and I would recommend that we postpone those until the representation review.
I think what we'll do is postpone those meetings, but have a public meeting in those two communities and say, this is the situation.
Yeah.
It is a pity because community committees, community boards are our way of feeding back. And it would be useful to have something in place, if we could, for the representation review as part of the engagement process. They are one of our key engagement mechanisms. Any further questions of my report or the engagements?
I think the members will be notified of those public meetings.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. For all councillors, not just those ward councillors. Yeah. Anything further? As I said, I am attending tonight the prize giving for the Playground of the Year. The last thing I'll just add is we are looking at a potential zone meeting for councillors and elected officials. Another one over the 3 water changes. I'll move that my report be received. Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Carter. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Moving to item number 9, the Chief Executive's report. And this is page 59, I think. 59. Working off the electronic version. I'll go back to that. And I'll pass over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, your worship. Some of the items that are within my report have already been discussed in previous committee meetings today or by email. There are 3 recommendations which I'll go straight to. The first one is regarding the Marton Rugby Club and the installation of a seat and plaque at Marton Park to commemorate Dick Byrne, which was the recommendation from Marton Rugby Club.
So just a clarification from me.
Yep.
And that's part and parcel of that, is that we agree to do the funding.
Great.
So the rugby club aren't contributing to that funding, are they? They haven't indicated a desire to do that.
The request was for us to.
Yeah, but they're looking for a mover, either that we do or don't. Somebody got a stance here, councillors, please. Any questions around this? This is like dragging stones, councillors.
Have we got a suggested recommendation?
Well, the recommendation is that council either agrees or does not agree that the council's Parks and Reserves team work with the Marton Rugby Club to install a seat and plaque at an appropriate location in Marton Park, noting this is an unbudgeted expense.
I'm happy to move that the council agrees
Right?
that Council Parks and Reserves team work with Marton Rugby Club.
Have we got a seconder to that?
Second.
Have we got, so it's open for discussion in terms of questions. Have we got a cost?
We don't have a cost, no.
It's just the recommendation.
Councillor Ash.
Yeah, entirely unhappy with going with this without a cost attached to it at all. I feel we sort of, it's just an area we can't go to at this stage.
You're saying we don't know whether it's a seat or a throne. Councillor Wilson.
Could I suggest that it was amended, that it was providing it was within the current parks budget?
Are you moving that as an amendment?
I think it would clarify the question that Councillor Ash has asked.
So what you're saying is it wouldn't be an unbudgeted expense. You're suggesting that it should come out of parks. I think that would be
Providing
quite a change to the motion.
I'll think of another way of wording it.
I think if you're going to do that, you'd be voting against the motion and framing it a different way.
You may consider amending the motion to say not to exceed $1,000.
Well, I may consider that, or a councillor could.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Somebody wants to move an amendment to it, putting a dollar figure around it, then Councillor Belsham, it's your motion.
I would be happy to have a dollar figure put in there and capped at $2,000.
Right, so it's your motion. It doesn't seek an amendment. But so you're just changing your motion. I'd have to agree with the seconder that you're prepared to still second.
Yes.
Right, so motion would now read that it has not to exceed $2,000. Questions only at this stage before we debate. Right, there are no questions. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yeah, this has been floating around in the public domain for some time, and we actually went out and consulted with the public on it, and the feedback from the public was that it went back to the rugby club to see what they thought would be a true way of recognising Mr. Dick Hearn. And I think to put a figure of capping it at $2,000 to recognise someone who's had a significant input into our community is a pretty minimal expense to show our respect to a gentleman who's put a lot into our community.
Speakers, Councillor Ash.
Totally appreciate the sentiment behind this work and really truly appreciate it and think we do need to have a seat there. However, having just read through so many submissions, spoken to so many residents of the district that are concerned about our rates increases, etc., I think the very first step we need to be doing is actually speaking with the rugby club and going, how much skin do you want to put in this going? Where are they at? I think this is just a slippery slope that we just, I'll be voting against it.
The speakers. Councillor Hero.
Can I, my remembrance has to catch up with me, but I understand, my remembrance was that they approached us. They approached council in the first instance. And am I right? And you, Andy, you said that they weren't prepared to put any money into it?
Well, I just asked the question of staff, and there's no indication at this stage that they're prepared to help fund it.
So my question is, if people are coming to us with something that they're wanting, would it help us to first make sure that we know exactly what it is that they want? Because I kind of agree with what Kath is saying, in the sense that having just seen all of the submissions, everything's important. Now, I mean, I've got nothing against Dick Hearn at all, but they approached us. It's not as if we said we're going to do this, unless I'm totally off the wrong wavelength.
And you're going to write a reply.
I just want to clarify a point when you say they approached us. It wasn't so it wasn't the rugby club that approached us. It was members of the public that recognised Dick Hearn, and they may have been previous members of the rugby club. So that request did not specifically come from the rugby club.
I think that you should have reserved that comment as a right of reply to take further questions or views from councillors before we move back to the right of reply. No other speakers. Councillor Duncan.
Do we have precedents for this sort of, it's a small request around a obviously well-known and liked community member. Is there any sort of precedent that we have in this? I mean, are we setting a precedent with this? Or is this just something that comes to council and can be addressed? Because I mean, it's not a big ticket number, is it? It's not a big.
$2,000.
No, but it's, exactly, it's still money, but I'm just saying, is there such a thing as it's an unbudgeted expense?
It's an unbudgeted expense. I'm just trying to think of examples. One example, for instance, would be Mount Stewart, where there have been chairs put into Mount Stewart, recognising individual people that have contributed to that project. They were not funded by council. They were funded by the members of that group and that scheme. So probably if there was an example, it's the other way. I can't think offhand of a recognition to a person. Oh yes, there are examples. So Marton Park, over time, trees, for example, have been donated with little plaques, memory of, the RSA. And there was one memory, I can't think of who it was. A number of those have also been planted in various mayoresses' names. Councillor Carter.
I'm in agreement with Councillor Ash and Councillor Hurrah. I myself have funded a seat in the public space. I believe it should be up to with assistance from the rugby club that this go ahead, not funding it outright.
Okay, so we've had 3 speakers against. Any further speakers for? Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, I see this as a sort of Martin community decision, but I'm prepared to support it. I think there's other items coming up in the meeting today where we'll be supporting other community projects, and so I'm in favour of it.
Councillor Hero, you've already spoken.
I know. And I've already spoken, but then now that we've talked about others, then I sort of have changed my view.
You'll do that when you get to a vote. Sorry, Your Worship.
Do that when we get to a
If
vote.
you're outlining facts, yes.
So facts on this, this is what the rugby club have said, which was exactly our recommendation without the funding to it. We've not had a discussion with the rugby club over funding or not funding. So there are now actually 2 recommendations there. Is firstly, are you okay for us to commemorate Dick Hearn in a seat at Marton Park? And that has come from quite a lengthy public engagement process. And should elected members agree for that? The second question is, should it be funded by council? Now, an opportunity, Your Worship, may be for elected members to choose to use the Marton Community Committee funding that we have. That could be a consideration for you.
I can only deal with the recommendation in front of me. Move to the right of the slide.
Thank you for your comments. That was certainly one of my thoughts about utilising the Marton Community Committee Small Projects Grant. But that committee has not met for now nigh on 4 or 5 months. It hasn't been able to form a quorum. Otherwise, I would have suggested that it go to that committee for an option of funding from that grant. So that is the reason why I've suggested it comes as an unbudgeted expense from council, because that community committee has not, and we still don't know whether one will be formed to make that decision. And for the value, I think we should all be a bit realistic.
All right, we've had right of reply. Let's put it to the vote. Those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, the second recommendation is regarding the application from the Underville Huntway Festival for $250. There's within our current delegations register. I can't approve that, it must come to council. And I'm asking you for someone to move a percentage figure.
Sorry, there's quite a part of me, and this is a question, where we get routine events that come every year, and whether it's, for instance, for a consent for a marquee that comes every single year, why aren't these organisations asking for a consent for a longer period of time? In other words, the right to do things every single year. So it potentially bypasses the whole lot of this sort of stuff. However, we are talking about a percentage waiver of a fee. Has somebody got a view here? Councillor Lambert.
I'd like to try the waive 100% of the fee.
Sorry. No, it's up to the councillor to declare a conflict if there is.
Oh, sorry, yes. I probably shouldn't. Yeah, no, you're right about that. I should declare a conflict of interest. Yeah.
So can you outline your conflict?
I am a member of the Hunterville community and a regular attendee of the Hunterville Hunterway Festival.
That's not a conflict.
Oh, right. Well, I rescind my conflict.
So I would have taken a conflict of interest if you were serving on the committee.
Oh, no.
The application.
No, gosh, no.
So
Sorry, take it.
I'm back on track.
And you've ruled on that, correct? Yep. So
I'm ruling on your conflict of interest declaration to say you have no conflict of interest.
yeah, we just need to note that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Did you get all that?
But his conflict was on the basis that as a resident of Hunterville and attends the event.
Is that your?
I think suspect the many of.
That's my only my involvement with the festival. Yeah, I'm certainly not on the committee. No.
Okay.
No, that's
Yes, me to push. Okay. So you're moving that 100% of the fee gets waived, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Dalgety, seconding.
I'd also like to declare I am a Hunterville resident and go to the event.
You wanting me to rule on that as a declaration?
If you need to.
Because you've raised it, I have to. So it's been raised that Councillor Dalgety is a resident and attends. The ruling is exactly the same. Councillors, this can get to a ridiculous stage here. No. I'm still looking for us. You've now got a mover and a seconder looking for questions to this. Questions only. Councillor Hira, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Ash, Councillor Hira.
Can I ask what the development fee, what does that mean? What is the?
What's the fee for?
It's the attachment.
It's in the attachment on the report.
Yeah, it's page 80.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Duncan was next.
My question would be, are we is the RDC already supporting this festival with an event sponsorship of any client?
I'll wait to check.
And this is for the next event. They'd be eligible to apply for several between now and the event, would be the answer. But I don't think they have. Councillor Ash, question.
I still have a question around what the fee is actually for. I'm not too sure what the reducing barriers to development fee is for. But my question is that, but also what is the cost to us for waiving that? And further to that, as your worship was mentioning, these things come up frequently. Is it something that we could have as a standard way to support our events through the district? That
Yeah, the answer that I was getting at, this isn't one, but routinely we have got people asking for consent, for instance, to hold Christmas parades, those sorts of things, including the schmoggle. I think that we should be looking at much longer terms than an annual event for all of these things costs. Let's process these things once rather than every single year. Right, we've got a mover and a seconder. Would the mover like to
is there
speak?
an answer to the question of what that actually costs us? Is there an external
staff?
I have no idea what it costs us.
Is there an external fee that we pay for anything that they're applying for there, or?
I'm not aware of that, no. So I don't know. Councillor, if you'd like to take that as an undertaking, I can do so.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Are you happy that we proceed on the basis that
Yeah, sure.
there's an undertaking to come back?
Yeah, that's good as gold.
Question, councillor Belsham.
Yeah, I still, and I don't think it's been answered. I didn't realise we had a fee for reducing barriers to development. I understood that they've applied for a marquee erection building consent type fee waiver before, but I've never heard of reducing barriers to development. And I don't think it's been answered. Is that in our fees and charges? Because I haven't seen it.
I agree. I'd like some clarification as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the fee is, so.
Don't know what we're
Maybe it's sort of we're looking at it now.
Sorry, do you have an answer to it?
No, but we're looking at it now.
Look, I'll let this sit on the table. Hopefully it can be resolved this meeting. So I'll leave that item sit. Fortunately, it'll be councillor Belsham that'll have to undertake to resolve it.
We just have another undertaking from this conversation, which Ash was for our delegation's manual review to include multiple annual events or recurring annual events. You okay with that?
Well, it's the undertaking of the applicant to seek a timeframe. So I believe that instead of seeking it for every single year, that the consent application should be for multiple years. The onus is on the applicant to detail what they're asking for. It's not up to us to tell them what they should be applying for. But I'm serving it as a fairly strong recommendation that we're spending a lot of time and people are paying costs every single year for the same thing. I'd rather see it simplified.
Just my happy is to have them there as an undertaking.
In the delegation menu.
But no, it's not in delegations menu. Let's take that offline. We get what
It's a discussion with applicants. Councillor Ash.
So just a question in regards to that, would you be looking at distinguishing between a profit-making event and a non-profit making event as to whether or not they can apply for waivers or anything? So just a question for the future for the review.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
That decision will be made by the application that came to us. Yeah. Councillor Hero.
Probably in that same kind of vein, is whether or not, I think there was a decision made that we wouldn't necessarily look at assuming that people wouldn't be funded if they were applying for funding. There was no assumption that if someone applied yearly that they would be getting things every year.
The application for funding and the application for a consent to do things are two different types of processes. You know, let that one sit on the table. I'm not quite sure what it is for. You know, I take that on board. So there is another recommendation in the Chief Executive's report. We'll deal with this. We'll go back and ask questions about the entire report as well, because so the recommendation 3 is that council agrees or does not agree to waive internal building consent costs not to exceed 10,000 for upgrade work on the Opie Marae, sorry. Somebody wishing for a position in terms of a motion.
If I could just discuss this one, Your Worship.
Yeah, or ask questions of.
Yeah, so this one is specifically not included in our policy. So this is why it's here, because our policy does not cover effectively land that's not rated. So I couldn't bring it to you and say this fits the policy. This is outside policy. And it's entirely up for council's discretion.
Questions at this stage only. Councillor Gordon, in 5 minutes' time, I'll be substituting with the Deputy Mayor, Lucky.
Okay, so my question is, do we have other bits of property or real estate in the district that we don't rate? And I'd use churches as an example. Do we rate churches?
So we won't be rating for this marae other than connection type costs. So that is the formula for all maraes, and they would fall within that. So that's a rating position. This is for a building consent.
Yeah, okay. My question is, do we rate churches?
No, we don't. I'm pretty sure we don't.
I'll just check, and also if we do rate them, we might limit them as well by nature, by virtue of their nature. So can I get back on that? Can we find out now?
Yeah, okay. What we do is we charge a rate for toilets and connection to water. So there's a services rate, as there is a services rate for schools and maraes and so on, but they don't attract a lot of the general rates that currently sit. I'm reasonably confident that's the position. Councillor Ash.
Could I have some clarification, please, as to how much of the up to $10,000 for the upgrade work is external fees and how much is internal staff costs, etc.? I think that's a really, really important figure to actually know, because I would not feel comfortable at all with us having to pay for any external costs to waive their fees.
The recommendation specifies that it's for the internal costs only that would be eligible. So any costs made to the building authority in terms of consents would still have to be met by Marae. Councillor Hero.
So my question is in the same vein as Councillor Gordon's around, so that they're not rated. And that's been clear, but actually keeping in the same vein of that with churches or any other places that aren't rated, that may be doing buildings, internal renovations. We just that sit with us.
So the same rules would apply. You mean, I'm not quite sure I fully understand your question.
Well, the question is, what I'm trying to find is ask is whether or not there is with this recommendation, is there an existing precedent or something in any other places? So when there's been, for instance, like a church, if churches have, or a church has looked to do any type of internal buildings, has that come across our table?
I'm scratching my memory. I'm fairly certain that there is precedent in terms of waiving internal building costs on other marais. I think we waived some of the stuff at Rata when there was some building work done there. I would need some checking. Councillor Wilson.
One quick question, is any of the building costs being required through scrape prone legislation? Is it for any of that space?
There's been a number of building consent costs
No,
waived.
that particular one.
Not that I'm aware of. I think this is the first time in my memory that they've ever asked for council assistance. They have been through a very difficult consenting process because the ownership of that marae, it's not an easy parcel of land. They were looking to relocate building onto it, and we had to go through quite an exhaustive process working with them to be able to do that.
Supplementary to that, then, is this again a request for assistance after the fact?
They actually,
I can't say that. Based on that, and what happened the last time we brought this to the table, and the discussion was, is it after the fact?
Yes.
This is why it's up to, because it's before the fact. I can't give you a number because I don't know, because it's, so that's the impact of.
That's giving a little bit more clarity there.
Yeah.
Councillor Tibera, while you're questioning, I'll swap over with Deputy Mayor.
Is this question time, or is this then an opportunity to move the recommendation, or?
I thought you were asking a question. I sort of got to deal with, or the Deputy Mayor will deal with the questions first and how he handles it from there on. I have complete confidence in him. That's Andy. Thank you. I'm sorry that I do have to be reasonably specific at the time I get on the road. If they're successful, I'll text all councillors until about 10 o'clock.
Yay.
We don't know. We don't know.
Even if we've got to get up to it.
Okay. Any further questions? So councillor Duncan.
Yes, I have a question. So this is a 2015 policy. It sounds like it's being challenged beforehand, and also it's been, other people have got a remission, even though they don't apply. So the bigger question with me is this out of date, this policy, and perhaps does it need reviewing, or because why aren't maraes, if we are going to make exceptions and give money to against these requests, so we're saying they are eligible, why aren't they then within some policy that we have?
Yeah, I'll ask the Chief Executive to provide.
So in the policy on reducing or waiving fees, internal consenting costs, for you to be eligible for that, you need to have a rates remission applied. Rates do not apply to a marae. So it's not the policy is quite happy. It's the fact that this case for a marae cannot be tested against that policy. It doesn't apply because it's a non-rated property.
I understand.
So So this is, I can't bring to you a policy that refers to this application. There isn't one.
So my question is, perhaps we need to change the policy if we're going to make, allow these applications to be granted.
Is it a question or statement?
It's a statement question.
Councillor Rolkawa.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, just in case it goes to a vote, our recommendation, I have to declare a conflict of interest. And it's because I am affiliated to Deb Marae.
Okay. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Councillor Delgatti.
Just
Yes.
Can you just enlighten me, if this was a rateable property, would this property be able to, would that consent be under the policy be able to be waived?
If there was a rates remission that had applied on the policy, by virtue of other emissions that we've discussed, then I could have the ability to give up to 50%, and then anything greater than 50% would need to come before council by the current policy.
Thank you.
But this is a non-rateable property, therefore it has no emissions, effectively.
Before we continue, are you backing up?
And also just going back a couple of conversations, churches are non-rateable. Someone asked that question.
Thank you. Right, thank you. I'll make a ruling from the chair on your declaration of conflict of interest that yes, you do, and I'll ask that you sit out of any voting process. Councillor Rolkawa, thank you. Questions still?
Yes.
A question, Councillor Carter.
So it would be a good idea in that respect to follow what the CE is able to do, and that's the 50% of a submission.
Sorry, is that a statement or a question?
Oh, I'm saying that would be a good idea, but not.
Yeah, so you're making I guess you're trying to make a recommendation there then.
I can do so, yes.
Well, I'll just see Councillor Hero and
I'd like to make a recommendation, in lieu of, as far as saying where I sit with it, the reality is that I'm connected to all marae that are, I have whakapapa links into Rata, Mōwhanga or Paia, the whole lot of them that are in this. So if that makes me have a conflict, I don't believe it does. But at the end of the day, that's something that you will tell me whether or not I do, because I would like to move that recommendation that the council agrees. But I'm happy to, happy with whatever you come up with if you think that I've got a conflict. Because as far as I'm concerned, I live here in this all here, and quite frankly, any building that's out here, we've all got a conflict. But I'm just saying to you that I'm actually connected into all of those, but I'm not just connected to one, I'm connected by whakapapa, by blood to the lot. And I would not necessarily be very happy if I can't have put through a recommendation about it. But anyway, if that's what you decide, then that's what you decide.
Well, I've made a ruling for Councillor Rolkawa, and I guess I'd have to take some advice as to how the when you say you have an affiliation with the marae.
Same as Tracy. I whakapapa to them, and I whakapapa to a lot of maraes around here. But
do you sit on the marae committee?
No, I don't. If this was Mōwhanga marae,
so
I would step out.
So sorry, if you have an affiliation, but you don't physically sit on the controlling body of that marae, then I would have to rescind my ruling of conflict of interest and declare that you both, from the chair, I believe you both do not have a conflict of interest.
Don't have a decision-making role.
Yeah, Councillor Hero, you were.
Well, I'd like to make a recommendation for that the council agrees to waive internal building consenting costs not to exceed 10,000 for upgrade work to the Alpine Marae.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Gordon. Okay, I'll start off with you speaking to your recommendation first. Councillor Hero.
So no, the background and what's been presented by one of the trustees in the submission, that Marai's been closed for I feel like it's even longer than 2 years. And it has been a lot of work to try and get them to a space where they can move on. The Upai Marae is one of the 7 maraes that sit within the Mokai Pātia Rohe, and trying to help move that along. In my mind, they are they have a different and they have a special place than potentially other types of buildings. The Upai Marae itself, I'm feeling like it's 100+ years old, and getting it back up and running. Yeah, that's why I put forward a recommendation.
Thank you. Speakers for the motion. Councillor Gordon.
Yes, I'd like to back up Tracy's comments and say that, you know, I think if this was a church, I think we'd be making the same sort of decision. If this, no, I'll leave another comment to the end. So I'm fully in support of this, and you know, if it's precedent setting, that's fine. I think we need to correct that and put a precedent in place.
Thank you. Further speakers for, against, speakers against?
Well, I'll be speaking against, but I'd like to notify foreshadowed secondary motion to that.
You can foreshadow a motion.
Yeah, I'll be foreshadowing motion that we support the motion, but only up to the value of $5,000 of internal costs. Would you like me to discuss why I would say that?
No, but you can speak against this motion, and you've foreshadowed your motion. So, any further speakers? Councillor Carter.
I'll be voting against, and in the same light as Councillor Wilson, I think that we should adopt the principles or the ruling that the CE has and give them 50% of an application up to $5,000, is it? That's 50%. That's 50%. So I'll be in the same light as Mr. Wilson.
Further speakers? Okay, right of reply, Councillor Hero.
Thank you for the next motion. I think that, well, personally, I think it's been a way forward. So I'm happy with that. All I would.
Okay, so if this motion is, so we'll vote on this motion. If it is lost, we will put the foreshadowed motions and motion, and as long as it gets a seconder, then we'll go through that process. So now you've had your right of reply, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Hang on, we'll have to have a hand count because there's some latecomers.
Just re-establish, is that the recommendation, as it says it there, it still says agrees, does not agree. The recommendation that we currently have is to agree to $10,000.
Up to 10,000, we'll not exceed. That's correct. So that's the current recommendation on the floor. Okay, so that's what you're voting on now. If you agree with that motion, please put your hand up. Those in favour of the motion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. Why did you quit this? So now we're heading back to the recommendation that was on the table for the Hunterway Festival. So we have some more information in regards with the fee.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Your Worship. The issue we face with the document that you saw, it's a copy and paste from years past, year on year. Effectively, the development fee, or the reducing barriers to development fee, can now be considered the building consent exemption application fee of $250. So I could,
for the erection of the marquee.
That would be, I presume that's what it would be for. We could change the recommendation to put that exactly building consent exemption application.
I think that would be clearer for anyone reading this document.
So where it's got develop, can you, yeah. building consent exemption application fee. And I'll just remove there for reducing barriers of interpretation of the request.
Okay, so the mover, Councillor Lambert, are you happy with that change?
Yes, very happy. Yep, updates it. It's good.
Just for clarity, it's, and Councillor Dalkety, are you happy as a seconder? Okay, we will start with the mover and ask you to speak to your recommendation.
Well, yes, I understand it's been an annual thing, and obviously it does bring a huge amount of money into the community, and as it states in the letter, less the cost, the more the profit, more money going back into things. So I think it's a good set of sprat to catch a mackerel.
Further speakers? Councillor Hero.
My question is, with the recent policy development, will it still sit under that, around tents?
It would not apply as part of the exemption. The exemptions for marquees that are there for more than a month and installed multiple times in a year. Yeah, so it won't fit under that.
So it could still potentially be an annual process to apply.
Yes.
Yep. Councillor Ash, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Semi-raised.
Yeah, no, I'll be, it hurts my heart to say it, but because I love the event, but I will be voting against it, just in line with my feeling that if an event is a profit-making event, even if it is for the benefit of the community, which this one absolutely is, they're in a position to pay that fee, and so for that reason I'll be voting against it, but for the record it does hurt my heart.
Any further speakers? Okay, right of reply.
Oh, no right of reply. I appreciate Councillor Ash's position, but no, I still feel it's I still strongly support the waiver of the $250.
So that is your right of reply?
Right.
Okay, all right, I must now put this to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation as written? Those against? That's carried.
Further, Mr. Chair, on my report.
Councillor Gordon.
Mr. Chair, just before we go on, I just wonder if we could signal a little bit of work in the policy arena around tidying up this issue around waivers of non-rateable properties. Could we just have that in the future, please?
Can that be signalled as an undertaking of a review of the what is it?
Or in addition to the policy?
There'll be a rates remission policy, which is going to workshop.
Right, it's not rates remission, it's waiver of fees. Sorry, did I put the wrong word in there? Sorry.
So are you signalling when it's next due for review?
Well,
or are you raising it up to
I'm just raising it so that it goes on the list of things to do.
Through you. So just so you know, we do come across a number of these things that we would prefer not to have to bring to council. The current delegations register is this thick, and it's got so many things that are quite out of date, and the exec team with a couple of other members from the staff have started the review of that, and we intend to bring you an updated version over the next couple of months, and it will be a much more simplified version, and it will reflect a lot of these that the delegation can be given to the chief executive for things like $250 or $50 and that sort of thing. So it's well underway.
right, sorry. Okay, so that's been dealt with as a point of action. Yeah, great. Thank you. Right. Okay, so back to your chief executive's report.
Yes.
Those have dealt with the recommendations listed. Are there any further items on the report that you'd like to
Did
speak
we
to?
actually receive the report you wish?
No.
you'll note that there is an attachment to my report, which is the 9 months statement of service performance. That paper also went to finance and performance as a standalone paper. That committee chose not to receive the report on the basis that it did not contain sufficient information that governance required.
Correct.
Now, this is an appendix to my report, and you may wish to make a recommendation that you do not receive, or you receive my report with the exception of, etc. I'll leave that for your consideration.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So when we do move the reception of the report, we will put word into that effect. Councillor Wilson.
I was just going to make a comment to what you just said. Yep.
Yes, okay. So are you prepared to?
Yeah, well, I was the mover in the earlier meeting this morning with regards to that, so I'd happy for that to be carried over, that recommendation that was put into the finance performance meeting this morning to be carried over into the.
Okay, so we'll just get some wording around that before we put it. So the Chief Executive's report be received with the exception of the statement of service performance reporting with some wording.
Which should be reported again.
Which will be reported at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll move Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Carter. Any discussion? No. All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right. Thank you. Okay, we're up to reports for decision now and draft submission building code update 2021. Who's taking us through this, Katrina? Welcome to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what you've got in front of you is a draft submission to MB on proposed changes to the building code update. Officers have recommended submitting on proposal 1, which is changes to installation standard and climate maps. You have previously received the draft submission via an email. Comments back from Councillor Gordon have been incorporated into the draft you have in front of you today. Mr. Cullis is behind me to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we've all had an opportunity to read through the report, and some elected members have commented back as was mentioned. Are there any questions of the report? Right. Okay, we'll start off with the reception. So could I have someone move the reception? Councillor Gordon beat you to the jump. So Councillor Gordon moved, Councillor Dalgetty seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. And the amendments, have you incorporated any of the amendments from those discussions?
Yeah, they're all
They're all in
incorporated
here.
into the draft. So without amendment would be no further amendments to the draft that's in there. With amendments, amendments that you would suggest today.
Right. Okay. So around the table, Councillor Gordon.
Just a wee query from me. I'm just thinking about how it's worded. The last paragraph on page 83, midway through, and it says, and Mofonga with an altitude of 700 metres above sea level. I wonder if it should be and Mofonga hinterland with an altitude of over or above 700 metres, because the Mofonga village itself is probably around 500, I'm guessing. But certainly, if we look at the country behind that, especially the Alfalco blocks, you know, they're sitting, Tracy, I'm sort of looking towards you, what, 800 metres plus? I mean, the snow lies out there for an awfully long time. And so if hinterland was inserted, I'll be quiet and go away, because I think
I'll just
trying to
ask,
clarify.
is that feasible, it doesn't create any difficulties, right? That's fine.
Thank you.
Treat that as an amendment. Councillor Duncan.
I've just got a couple of questions around potential edits. On page 82, the third bullet point at the bottom said the need for increased ventilation. There's a really awkward sentence there. Council supports MB investigating the need to other parts of the building code impacted by increased insulation requirements. So I suggest that's not like.
Yeah, we can insert the words made changes too.
Cool. And there's just one other on page 83, third paragraph, second paragraph under proposed climate zone map. Right in the middle, it says climate throughout our vast district, comma, and we anticipate would cause, I would suggest that it should be that. We anticipate would cause.
Yeah, can make that change.
Okay, they're fairly minor wording amendments. I don't think there's any issues there. So any further discussion on the document? Okay, then we could move forward to the recommendation there of approving. Councillor Gordon.
Oh, the council approves with amendment.
You happy with amendment? As amendment, yeah. So seconded by Councillor Duncan. Right. I don't think we need any further discussion on that. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
No.
Against? Carried. Great. Thank you, Katrina. Okay. Options, consideration for the Marton water supply strategy. Scan Street, right. Oh, no, it's open. First names. I'll allow you not to call me Mr. Chair. Oh, no, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what I'll do is I'll just step through it in an order fashion just to kind of lead you through that. If you can cast your minds back into 2019, we agreed to have a look at a Marton water strategy to kind of look at the problems that we have and how we can potentially resolve those. The strategies would actually look at all of the supply network, not just the plant. So it's the raw water source, the treatment, the storage, and the delivery network, so all of it. We then started off, we covered a lot of ground and looked at all the previous reports, kind of identified a couple of knowledge gaps that we could fill in. We've done that work, and then we finally brought all of that back to council in May last year. And I've just quoted the resolution from that meeting because that really drives this piece of work. So that was to have a look at a more detailed business case of what will happen if we change from the existing way that we supply water to town to some alternative way of doing it. And that really is what this report is about. So if you look at the discussion and options considered, we've got the obvious problem with the Marton water supply, which is odour and taste at certain times of the year. We get lots of complaints about that. But when we looked at the plant and the actual supply, we realized there's more than just the one obvious issue. There's some other issues there as well. So in the report, we've identified four major things that we have to consider when we look at a future water supply for Marton. So the first one is obviously the unpleasant odor and taste, and that's something that we would have to deal with. Secondly is Marton water demand. And this one is actually quite an interesting issue. At the moment, the plant can do about 3,200 cubic meters per day at maximum speed. So that's the most we can get out of that. In summer, we are way above that consumption as it stands. You can imagine with all the development going on in town, the problem will just become bigger and bigger as we move along. The other interesting thing that we found is the dams are not big or deep enough to supply more than what we're supplying at the moment. So if we want to move up, we found one of the previous reports done by MWH of Stantec that identified 5,000 cubic meters per day sufficient for existing use. And that's kind of what we're aiming for in this report. So for us to move from the existing 3,200 to 5,000 cubic meters per day, we would have to increase the capacity of the dams. The third issue is the age of the existing treatment and distribution infrastructure. So the plant was built in the 1920s. And although there's been upgrades since then, a lot of the infrastructure up there would be 100 years old. There are some old concrete structures and things that will be coming to the end of its life. And if we want to hang on to that, we'd have to upgrade or replace some of those structures. We can't just keep them forever and ever. And then the fourth issue, you might remember last year we identified some damage on the Spillway of Sea Dam. So that's the bottom of the two dams. And we had some work done by dam engineers from Stantec. And as part of that work, they looked at the dams and if they comply with the guidelines for dams in New Zealand. And we then did a whole lot of work on top of the spillway repairs to figure out where they sit on those guidelines and what we would have to do to make them comply. And as you can see in the report, both B dam and C dam are actually classified as high potential impact dams. And that comes with a lot of regulation and a lot of risk. And really what this report says is that both those dams, because of their classification, should have sufficient capacity and overflow capacity for a 1 in 10,000 year event because the risk is so high. So the B dam, the older one of the two, has got a 1 in 10 year limit. So we would have to spend substantial amounts of money to get those dams up to standard to kind of avoid that risk. The bottom one is 1 in 1,000 year, but it's still a long way off the 1 in 10,000 year. So then what we realize is in looking at the two options, so that's keeping the existing or considering an alternative supply, the long-term view should solve all these problems or many of these problems. That really should be included in the cost to get a fair representation of the two options. And what I've done is I've had a look at the previous reports where there was quite a bit of detail around operating costs, upgrades, and the like that has already been produced. I've used those numbers and I've just added inflation to them to get to today's numbers. And I thought from an engineering perspective, that adds a lot of rigor in the fact that we've got something to point to if we're looking at the numbers as what it could be. So then you'll see in the table on page 88, I've just compared them. And we start just with capital costs. So that's obviously for upgrades that we would have to do to the existing plant compared to a new plant. Now, this is really important. The engineering English is not the correct English in this report. It is not a new plant. It will be at the same site in the same building. It'll just be new equipment. So previous capital investments that's been made up there would be used and not lost. And the same goes for the water reservoir, the storage reservoir. So right, so we start with the capital spend. The second one is the capital costs associated with the production of the treated wastewater. So at the back end of a water treatment plant, there is a waste product. At the moment, we're pumping it up to the top dams, and we've got 3 little dams on the side, and it goes in there, and the overflow of that goes back into the dams. So we have to make a change that Horizons will not allow that into the future, and we would have to do something with that wastewater as well. If we look at an alternative water supply, we have to do something with that wastewater as well. So although that cost is unknown at the moment, we have to do that for both. The capital cost of the dam upgrades, also unknown, but worthwhile flagging because I think that might be a substantial cost. Capital cost of the new bore, option 1, do not require a new bore. Option 2, the capital cost is the report that Carno did last year at 1.575 million. Annual operating costs, very interesting. So the existing plant is running at about $950,000 a year operating costs, and the new plant will be 325. So there's a substantial reduction. And then I've looked at a 30-year life for both these options on an MPV at 1.83% to kind of compare them at an expected lifespan. And you can see that option 1 comes in at 28 million and option 2 is 16 million, so substantially less. Then what I've done is I had a look the 4 issues that I've identified to compare the possible solution and if it resolves that issue that was identified. So the next table really just compares those 2 options against the issues. And what you'll notice is that unpleasant odor and taste, although it'll be less often, will still occur. It's unavoidable. For option 1, for option 2, from the bores, problem solved. The Marton water demand, if we stick to what we have, we could potentially upgrade the dams and the treatment plant. The cost would be substantial. If we go to groundwater, we would have enough right now. But also to keep in mind, one of the big benefits of groundwater, it is modular. So as town grows, we can add more bores if we need to. The treatment will be the same, everything else will be the same. We look at the third issue is the age of the existing treatment plant and distribution. So the upgrade of what needs to be upgraded is included in the comparison. And then obviously, if we look at an alternative plant, we would have new issues. And then the final one is the compliance with the dam safety guidelines. Number 1, option 1 does not resolve that. Option 2 does resolve that or reduces the risk substantially, because if we're going to look at those dams only from a recreational perspective, we can manage the levels at half of what it is now, which reduces that risk massively. So the dam itself becomes the capacity for the storm events and reduces that risk dramatically. So again, option 2 has some benefits. So in the conclusions, just as a summary, option 1 will cost more and partially resolves one of the issues, which is the age of what we're dealing with, where option 2 is substantially less expensive and resolves all 4 of the issues. And then in the recommendations, really what we're asking is, we have 2 options there. Option 1 is the recommendation is to go with option 1 and improve what we got, or we move to option 2, which is an alternative source and treatment. What is really important, and I feel the report is a little weak on that, is whatever we decide today will guide the creation of the strategy. And I'll remind you again that the strategy would actually touch on all aspects of the water supply. So that will include things like water losses, how much water people are taking off between the source and town. It will include all of those aspects. And what I want to do after this decision is to then produce this strategy and bring that back to council to have a look at. So they'll have a whole long list of issues, actions and dates that'll go with it.
Right, that's helps. All right, thank you, Arno. I think we'll start off with the reception of the report, the strategy. So can I have someone move the reception? Councillor Lambert, seconded. Councillor Duncan, all those in favour? Carried. Okay, so we'll open it up to questions of the report to start with. So are there any questions? Councillor Dalgety.
Just for my own understanding, why did they put the calico line borer in? What was its purpose? So you're not using it at the moment, are you?
No.
So why did that go in?
That is a backup supply for town. So when something really bad happens up at the plant, that is connected to the town supply, and it is treated in a very simple way, but it is backup supply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago. That bore was put in, and then obviously over time the quality of that water is just
So over time the quality of the water has deteriorated? No.
Well, the treatment process to keep it up to the required standards is huge. Yeah. Any further questions, Councillor Ash?
Thanks, Anna. It's great to receive the report. I still have the question around, we quite often see those figures of 5,000 cube per day for the Marton use, which still seems incredibly excessive to me. So with this strategy going in, does that mean that we're going to be, if we go ahead with this new strategy, will that reduce the demand to a lower requirement? And if so, will that have a further saving if we're not processing as much water through the treatment plant as 5,000 cubes. It just, if we look at the draw from other councils around the country, ours just seems hugely high. And I know we've always understood that there's been quite a bit of leakage and stuff like that. So if that's fixed, what are the savings?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yeah, absolutely, you've got that correct. So the strategy will touch on all those things, which includes water demand management, leakage and loss, all of those factors. So we could expect all of those numbers to come down. So we've worked out the OPEX going forwards on the bigger flow, and obviously if that's reduced, the OPEX should come down. Yep.
Councillor Duncan, then Councillor Delgado.
Sorry, just what Councillor Dalgety just said, I have a question. So if the Calico line 4 went down and the water's not that good, or it takes a lot to treat, is this the same water source that we're going to get these new bores into?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The answer to that question is yes, it is the same aquifer, but the difference is when they put the first one down, way back when, there was no treatment for the water quality that they got from me. And the take from there is not that much. So let's say it's 1,200 cubes a day. We've got the Tutanui bore, which is in the same aquifer, but the take's much higher, so call it 3,500 cubes a day. But now there's treatment available for both those bores. And that really is the difference. The problem is with the Calico bore, we can't put a whole treatment plant up at Calico line because it's not enough. It's not even a fraction of enough. So there's no benefit there. What we did do is we compared the cost of pumping Calico up to the plant for treatment compared to a new bore. And it's about a third of the price to sink a new bore than it would be to pump that water up to the existing treatment plant. Yeah.
So the Calico line bore is there as an absolute backup for water supply. Councillor Dalgety.
So the 5,000 cubes, will that be enough for our current projected growth of Marton?
Yes, it will be. And also we have to remember that once we start looking at leakage and loss and demand management in more detail, that will create more capacity for us at the same time. So if you think of the growth that's going on in Marton at the moment and the growth that we expect to happen in the future, between those two things, there would be sufficient supply.
I had a couple of questions, and one was, which I think you've answered just now, was what was the capacity of the current bore that's on Tutanui Road, and then would that still be utilised as part of the treatment process?
Yep.
And in the future, consenting issues to draw bore water, do you see any issues in the future for us to get consent to actually draw water?
We looked at that as well. When we put the Tutanui bore down, the aquifer is large and well supplied, and we do not expect any problems with draw off from that aquifer. So yeah, no, we don't expect problems with it.
All right, any further questions? Otherwise, it's 3 o'clock. We're signalled to take a break. We're specified to take a break at 3 o'clock since we started at 1. So I'd be happy to park this and then come back to a recommendation. I think there might be a little bit of debate.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, so I'll hold
your finger, and we'll move off for a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back.
I know which way council is going.
Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We will reconvene the council meeting, and we were at the Marton water strategy. And Councillor Wilson, you had your finger poised.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Chair. Just going to suggest that I'd like to move option 2 of the water paper.
Option 2 being that the groundwater is raw water source for the new water treatment plant to supply 5,000 cubic metres per day be selected as the preferred option for the Marton water supply strategy. We have a seconder, Councillor Rokawa.
Kia ora.
Okay, questions first. Okay, all right, I'll give you the first speaking rights, Mr. Mover.
Thank you, Chair. So I think having looked at this in some detail and having had the opportunity to speak with Arno, our infrastructure manager, regarding this subject, there are just too many risks for us to continue with option 1 as a consideration. Clearly, there is our desire to produce better quality water on a sustainable basis to the district, and I think that is foremost in all of our minds. But sitting in behind that is a significant number of risk factors with us not doing anything and not accepting or adopting this strategy now. And one thing is for sure that I think we all know, the costs are going to keep going up. If it's going to cost these numbers this year, in 2 years' time, I would suggest you'll add 30% onto those. It may be a lot more. So I'm just saying we need to act now. Sitting in behind that is, of course, the 3 waters strategy, which is currently in the hands of local government, and we will be getting further updates on that. It may be in our best advantage to have something on the go and be prepared to be in a space to take advantage of whatever that may be in the future. And I think we'd be amiss not to be making some decisions here around this table today and acting quickly.
Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, I agree with wholeheartedly with Councillor Wilson said. I think if we were to go with option 1, we would soon hit a point where we couldn't go any further. And with the growth that Marton's undergoing, option 2 is a no-brainer. I do not have to point out to councillors today is the national final of the national drinking water competition. Marton has not entered. Under option 2, we would have a greater chance of entering this competition and finishing higher up. So I'm very much in favour of option 2.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to it as well. I've lived in Marton for some time, and this has been an ongoing issue ever since I've been associated with Marton as a township. And I believe the only true way we can deal with it is by looking at an alternative water source and taking into account the growth predicted in our area. This deals with certainly with 2 options there, or two challenges, and also our dam is certainly signalled in this paper as a huge risk to this community. So I think option 2 is certainly signalled as the correct way to go. Further speakers, Councillor Hero.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that in reading it, it seems that if we continue down a path of doing what we've always done, we get what we always get. And I think that I'm totally behind option 2 in this recommendation.
Yes. So I've had 3 speakers for. Do we have any further speakers or any speakers against the recommendation? Okay, there being none, I must now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Recommendations here. Okay. We've got further ones to it.
Yes.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes. Okay. We had received it. So we've moved to the option choice, the 3rd recommendation. Do I have someone prepared to move that? Councillor Dalgety, seconded Councillor Hero. Would you like to speak to that recommendation, Councillor Dalgety?
Just take it as we've discussed this, and I recommend.
Yes, it is a follow-on from a required action from choosing option 2. So There being no speakers, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
No.
Against, carried. Thank you for that. Okay. Water and wastewater monitoring and lab testing report or recommendation. Welcome to the table, Jess. The floor is yours.
So we've been out and done a shared procurement with Manawatu District Council for a better level of service and a better cost model for the testing of water and wastewater that is done routinely across the district and really across every district in the country. Manawatu led that procurement and did an excellent job of getting 3 tenders in, and this purpose of this memo is to get authority for the Chief Executive to sign that contract. We've gone out to the market for the first 3 years of testing with the right to renew the contract for another 2 years after that. We met all of our procurement policy requirements to get 3 quotes or to get 3 proposals from the market. And this represents a great level of service for us and also a cost saving per annum. We set aside a budget each year to pay for water and wastewater laboratory testing, and it is not anything that's likely to stop being required in the near future. I'm happy to take any questions for you.
Great. Thank you, Jess. We'll start off with the reception of this report, moved by Councillor Gordon, seconded by Councillor Panapa. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Questions of the report. So take questions now. Councillor Gordon.
Yes, I have a question for Jess, and it's really looking backwards. Did we have testing that was split up amongst a number of providers and lacked the sort of critical mass this one inherently gives?
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Dalgety.
Just really, I don't know how this could work, but I'm just interested. This is the testing agency that the Ringatiki River Collectives use. So basically the farmers are paying sort of $60 a test monthly to test the Ringatiki. So I don't know whether, I was just having that knowledge out there that at some stage something might be able to boomerang out of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that comment could just be taken on board. Yeah. Councillor Rolkoa.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Jess, and you talk about in the you do leachate sampling as well. If I'm not going to say whereabouts, but if any is found on water or near waterways or near on iwi or around iwi land, will they be notified?
That's a good question. The testing that we need to do is generally specified in resource consents that we have. And we have a policy where we've made aware of it to advise iwi.
Thanks.
So the only question I had, and I think it is in the report, that all these figures are well within our budget, figures that we already have in place. Yeah. Right, any further questions? If not, do I have someone prepared to put a motion on the table? Councillor Gordon.
Yes, that I'd move that council does authorise the Chief Executive to sign.
Okay, seconded to that, Councillor Duncan.
Have we received it?
Yes, we have received it. We're seconding it. Okay, Councillor Gordon, do you wish to speak to your recommendation?
I think it's a good report and it's quite self-explanatory.
Okay. No further speakers. If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Jess.
Well done, thank.
Okay, road pavement marking contract.
Yes, thank you,
Arno.
Mr. Chair. I'll step through this one quickly. So this is a contract that's come to an end. We've gone out to the market and we are presenting this recommendation back to council for the next 3 years, so 21 to 24. And the total cost is about 147,000 a year for the next 3 years. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, we'll move the reception of this report first of all. So moved councillor Hero, seconded councillor Dalgetty. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thanks. Questions of the report, councillor Hero?
My only one question is, are we worried at all that there's only been one tender that's coming for, one company tender for the contract? Is there any worry about that?
No, unfortunately for us, it's quite common in the roading environment, especially where we are, that you have dominant suppliers that would get most of the tenders. So it's quite a common thing, as long as we're certain that it is value for money. So if we compare with our neighbours, we are confident it's value for money.
What I did like in the report that the tender price was 70% of the engineer's estimate. So I would presume that is pretty good value for money. Questions?
Moving.
Well, you're happy to move? Okay, move the recommendation.
Yeah.
As written?
As written, yeah.
Okay, seconded by councillor Rockhauer. Would you like to speak to it?
Just quickly noting, obviously, that it receives Waka Kotahi funding subsidy, and it is in line with their procurement process. So, whilst the question that was raised from councillor Hero there, as to with regards to that concern, it is in line with Waka Kotahi's procurement process. So I'm very confident to make this movement based on that.
Okay, all right. No further speakers. I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Against. Carried. Thank you. There's a third recommendation there. That council notes this investment receives a subsidy from Waka Kotahi, and then the respective subsidy amounts are listed there. And it's really an explanation of why those subsidy amounts change. Moved by councillor Wilson, seconded by councillor Duncan. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Right, we're up to item 11 on the agenda, and that is the Project Management Office report. Jess, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all yours.
I'm happy to take any questions on the report. There are some usual hot topics that we discuss each time this comes out. The final inspection of Te Marapihi for its code compliance certificate is next Thursday. So I hope to be able to give you a good answer at the next meeting regarding code of compliance. The Mangaweka Bridge is proceeding as planned. Through construction, the historic landfill on Putarino Road is proceeding well through construction, and there have been no concerns during the construction on either project.
Okay, you happy just to take questions then through the report? Or actually, we'll move reception of it first. So reception moved by councillor Carter, seconded by councillor Hero. All those in favour?
Right.
Carried, thank you. Questions of the report. I'll start off with councillor Gordon. You had your hand up first.
Yes. Number 3, the Lake Waipu and Marton wastewater. Yes, given the issues we're having with finding a site, how long before that risk arrow changes colour or points in a different direction?
Sure, I mean, the risk is orange, and the threshold for it becoming red is when we run out of places to move, basically. We are at our final option for consideration for land. We have had a timeframe from the Ministry for Environment as a funder of 30 August. So we need to go back to them by then with a feasible land area for land disposal. Should we not be able to, we'll need to be talking to them about other disposal methods than land.
Okay, councillor Carter.
Page 100. Tasks forecast for this month. We refer to RFQ for pipe supply. What's the RFQ?
Request for quote. And I apologise for the acronyms.
Councillor Lambert.
It's the Marton Rail Hub, a couple of red arrows there. The redesign of rail sidings program lost 3 months was reviewed to determine if this was acceptable. Have we had a result on that? Or?
The design is in the public excluded part of today's session. So following that, we will hopefully be able to move off of the red arrow for the June meeting.
I suppose the cost is the same as.
And again, we'll discuss that in public excluded as well.
Okay, any further questions? Right, there being none, we've moved the rest of the report and with no further recommendations coming out from there. So thank you very much for that update, Jess. All right. And we're now moving on to reception of minutes from committees, and there's a list of them there. Do I have someone prepared to move them as a block, reception of the block? Councillor Wilson. Are you seconding, Councillor Hero? Okay. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Recommendations out of those committees. We have a recommendation from the Taihape Community Board. The committee recommends to council that the council negotiate with Katahi NZTA in order to return the speed limit on Mataroa Road, State Highway 1 to 50 k's. Who knows about the discussion on this?
I don't directly know about the discussion on it, Chair, but I do note that at a recent discussion that came from the Huntable Community Committee, it was left to the fact that Waka Kotahi is reviewing speed limits on a number of rural roads in conjunction with a speed delivery project around the whole country, I believe. And we did not move any further with that.
Okay. So if this is moved as a recommendation, is that something that staff take on board in the negotiations with Waka Kotahi in a review, speed review process? Is that right?
Ruben is aware of it. So
He is?
he will,
Okay, so we can move this as a recommendation and then it will go through a due process. Right, okay. Right. Do I have someone prepared to move that recommendation from the Taihape Community Board? Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
Can I?
Oh,
I'm
have
actually
you
on
got
the board. Maybe I can't.
Two of us are kind of concerned, but Councillor Hero, are you prepared to move it? Yes, and seconded by Councillor Ronkawa. Right, I don't think we need too much discussion unless someone's really wanting to speak to it. No, I'll put it straight to the vote then. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And there was only one recommendation coming out of those minutes. So that takes us to the end of the public arena of council, and we are now required to move into the public excluded. Do I have someone prepared to move? Thank you, Councillor Hero. Seconded, Councillor Ash. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.